The moment everything changed. June 22nd, 1941. 3:15 in the morning. The Soviet-German border. German Panzer Commander Heinz Guderian stands in the cupola of his command tank. He watches the eastern horizon. Operation Barbarossa has begun. 3 million German soldiers are pouring across the Soviet border. 4,000 tanks roll forward. 4,000 aircraft fill the skies. This is the largest invasion force in human history. Guderian is confident, supremely confident. His panzer divisions crushed Poland in 18 days. France fell in 6 weeks. Belgium collapsed in 18 days. The Netherlands surrendered in 5 days. No army has stopped the German Wehrmacht. Soviet intelligence reports say the Red Army is weak, poorly trained, poorly equipped. Stalin's purges killed thousands of experienced officers. The Soviet military is in chaos. German High Command estimates the Soviet Union will collapse in 8 weeks, 2 months. Then the war will be over. Guderian believes this. Every German officer believes this. They are about to discover how catastrophically wrong they are. June 23, 1941, near Grodno, western Belarus. 24 hours into the invasion, Guderian's lead panzer column is advancing through a forest road. Suddenly his radio crackles. A panicked voice cuts through the static. "Contact front, enemy tank, unknown type." Guderian raises his binoculars. Through the trees he sees it, a Soviet tank emerging from the forest. It's moving fast, faster than any tank he's ever seen. Its silhouette is low, sleek, different from the clumsy Soviet T-34 tanks his intelligence briefings showed him. His forward anti-tank gun crew opens fire. A 37mm shell streaks across the field. It hits the Soviet tank's hull. The shell bounces off, ricochets into the air. Sparks fly from the impact point. The tank doesn't slow down, doesn't even flinch. The anti-tank crew fires again, and again, and again. Shell after shell hits the Soviet tank. Every single one bounces off. The tank continues advancing. Then it pivots. Its turret rotates smoothly. The gun barrel swings toward the German position. One shot, a flash of fire, a thunderous crack. The German Panzer III explodes. The turret is blown completely off the hull. Flames pour from every hatch. Guderian watches in stunned silence. His radio erupts with more reports. "We can't penetrate it. Our shells are useless. Another panzer destroyed. Requesting 88mm guns." Guderian radios back to division headquarters. His voice is tense. "We've encountered a Soviet tank we cannot penetrate. It's destroying our panzers. What is this machine?" The radio operator checks the intelligence files. "Sir, Soviet designation, T-34. In that moment, everything Guderian thought he knew about tank warfare changes. Because the T-34 wasn't just a tank, it was a revolution. A machine that would break the myth of German invincibility. The weapon that would turn the tide of World War II. The tank that would roll into Berlin and end the Third Reich. This is the story of the T-34, the greatest tank ever built. Welcome to Iron Witness. Origins. The birth of a legend. Chapter 1. The Crisis of 1939. Let's go back to 1939. The Soviet Union has a massive problem. Their tank fleet is obsolete. The primary Soviet battle tank is the T-26. It weighs only 10 tons. Its armor is 15mm thick. A German anti-tank rifle can penetrate it. Its 45mm gun is weak, ineffective against modern armor. Its top speed is 30 kilometers per hour. It's slower than marching infantry. The Soviets have thousands of these tanks. But Soviet tank designer Mikhail Koshkin knows the truth. These tanks are death traps. They won't survive a modern war. Koshkin has been watching the Spanish Civil War carefully. From 1936 to 1939, Soviet tanks fought in Spain. They were slaughtered. German anti-tank weapons destroyed them easily. The lesson is clear. Light tanks are finished. The future belongs to medium tanks. Heavily armored, powerfully armed, fast and mobile. But convincing Soviet leadership is difficult. Stalin's military purges have killed thousands of experienced officers. The survivors are terrified of proposing anything radical. Suggesting change could mean a bullet in the back of the head. Mikhail Koshkin is different. He's not a military man. He's an engineer, a pragmatist. He doesn't care about politics. He cares about building the best tank possible. In March 1939, Koshkin presents a proposal to the Soviet High Command. We need a completely new medium tank, fast, well-armored, with a powerful gun, something that can survive modern anti-tank weapons and dominate the battlefield. Marshal Kliment Voroshilov, Stalin's closest military advisor, is skeptical. Medium tanks are expensive, complex, difficult to produce. We need quantity, not quality. We need thousands of cheap tanks, not hundreds of expensive ones. But Koshkin persists. He shows calculations, engineering diagrams, cost-benefit analyses. He argues passionately. A cheap tank that gets destroyed in the first battle is worthless. A good tank that survives 10 battles is priceless. Finally, Voroshilov relents. You have 1 year. Build a prototype. If it works, we'll consider production. Koshkin returns to Kharkov, Ukraine, to the Kharkov Locomotive Factory, factory number 183. He assembles his team, his chief engineer, Alexander Morozov, his lead designer, Mikhail Tarshanov, his production manager, Nikolai Kucherenko. Together, they begin designing what will become the most influential tank in history. The revolutionary design. The T-34 design breaks every rule of Soviet tank development. Koshkin doesn't just improve existing designs. He reimagines everything. First, the armor. Traditional tank armor is vertical, perpendicular to the ground. This makes it easy for shells to penetrate. Koshkin's solution is radical, sloped armor. The T-34's front hull armor is only 45 millimeters thick, but it's angled at 60 degrees from vertical. When a shell hits sloped armor, it has to travel through more metal. The effective thickness becomes 90 millimeters, double the actual thickness. Additionally, sloped armor causes shells to deflect, to ricochet. Instead of penetrating, they bounce off. This principle, called shell deflection, dramatically increases survivability. No other tank in 1939 uses sloped armor at this scale. German tanks have vertical armor. British tanks have vertical armor. French tanks have vertical armor. Only the T-34 uses comprehensive sloped armor. It's revolutionary. Second, the gun. Koshkin chooses the F-34 gun, 76.2 millimeters. This gun can penetrate 60 millimeters of armor at 500 meters. That's more powerful than any German tank gun in 1939. The German Panzer III uses a 37 millimeter gun. The Panzer IV uses a short-barreled 75 millimeter gun designed for infantry support, not tank combat. The T-34's gun is superior to both. Third, the engine. Koshkin selects the V2 diesel engine, 500 horsepower, 12 cylinders. Diesel engines are rare in tanks. Most countries use gasoline engines, but diesel has critical advantages. Diesel fuel is less flammable than gasoline. A hit to the fuel tank is less likely to cause a catastrophic fire. Diesel engines are more fuel efficient. They provide longer operational range. Diesel engines perform better in extreme cold, crucial for Soviet winter operations. The V2 engine is also incredibly reliable. Soviet engineers designed it to run for hundreds of hours without maintenance. This is critical for mass production and field operations. Fourth, the suspension. Koshkin adopts the Christie suspension system, named after American inventor J. Walter Christie. This system uses large road wheels and long coil springs. It provides excellent cross-country performance. The T-34 can travel at 55 kilometers per hour on roads, 35 kilometers per hour cross-country. This is faster than any medium tank in existence. Fifth, the tracks. The T-34's tracks are 500 millimeters wide, extremely wide for a medium tank. This distributes the tank's weight over a larger surface area. Ground pressure decreases. The tank can cross mud, snow, sand, and soft ground that would immobilize narrow-tracked tanks. German tanks have narrow tracks, 300 to 400 millimeters. They bog down easily in mud and snow. The T-34 doesn't. The first prototype is completed in January 1940. Koshkin names it A-34. A for the Russian word for prototype, Avantprojekt, the journey that made history. March 1940, Kharkov, Ukraine. The A-34 prototype is ready for testing. Soviet military officials arrive for the demonstration. They're skeptical. The tank looks strange, different, too radical. Marshal Voroshilov himself is present. He walks around the tank, frowns. This doesn't look like a Soviet tank. It looks foreign. Koshkin knows he's in trouble. If Voroshilov rejects the design, the project is dead. He makes a bold decision. Comrade Marshal, let me prove this tank works. I'll drive it from Kharkov to Moscow, 750 kilometers, through snow, through mud, through whatever conditions we encounter. If it breaks down, you can cancel the project. Voroshilov is surprised. Drive it to Moscow in March? The roads are mud. The spring thaw has begun. You'll never make it. Koshkin doesn't back down. If the T-34 can't handle Soviet roads in spring, it's not worth producing. Voroshilov considers this, then nods. Very well. Make the journey. If you succeed, I'll recommend the tank for production. March 17, 1940. Koshkin and his crew depart Kharkov. 2 A-34 prototypes. Koshkin commands one, engineer Morozov commands the other. They have a small support truck, that's all. The journey is brutal. Spring thaw has turned roads into rivers of mud. Villages are cut off, bridges are washed out. The temperature drops below freezing at night, rises above freezing during the day. Ice forms, melts, reforms. German and Soviet tanks of this era would break down in these conditions. Transmissions would fail, engines would overheat, tracks would snap. The T-34 doesn't break down. Not once. The wide tracks carry it across mud fields that would swallow other tanks. The reliable V2 engine runs hour after hour without problems. The suspension absorbs the brutal terrain. They drive through snow, through ice, through mud, through forests, through villages where people stare in amazement at the strange new tank. On March 30th, 1940, 13 days after departure, Koshkin and Morozov arrive in Moscow. They drive the tanks directly to the Kremlin, to Red Square. They park them in front of Stalin's office. Word spreads quickly. Stalin himself comes out to inspect the tanks. He walks slowly around the A-34, touches the sloped armor, climbs onto the hull, looks inside the turret. Stalin asks Koshkin one question. Can this tank be produced in large quantities? Can Soviet factories build thousands of these? Koshkin answers without hesitation. Yes, Comrade Stalin. The design is simple. The parts are standardized. We can produce this tank in massive numbers. Stalin nods. He turns to Marshal Voroshilov. Begin mass production immediately. This is the tank we'll use in the next war. The A-34 is officially designated T-34. T for tank, 34 for the year 1934, when preliminary design work began. Production begins in June 1940 at the Kharkov Locomotive Factory. By December 1940, 115 T-34s have been built. But Mikhail Koshkin never sees his creation in combat. The brutal drive from Kharkov to Moscow in freezing conditions damages his health. He develops severe pneumonia. Soviet medicine in 1940 is primitive. Antibiotics are unavailable. His condition deteriorates rapidly. On September 26, 1940, Mikhail Koshkin dies. He is 42 years old. He never receives public recognition for his achievement. Stalin's regime keeps his name secret for security reasons. But Koshkin's legacy is about to change the world. The Invasion, June 22, 1941, 3:45 in the morning. Operation Barbarossa begins. At this moment, the Soviet Union has approximately 1,200 T-34 tanks in service, but most are concentrated in rear training areas. Many lack ammunition, some lack fuel. Crews have minimal training. Radio equipment is scarce. Soviet military doctrine is in chaos because of Stalin's purges. Germany has 3,350 tanks, mostly Panzer III and Panzer IV. They're well-trained, well-supplied, commanded by experienced officers who conquered Poland and France. German intelligence reports say Soviet tanks are obsolete, poorly designed, crewed by incompetent soldiers. Heinz Guderian, Germany's leading tank commander, expects to reach Moscow in 8 weeks. He is catastrophically wrong. June 23, 1941, near Grodno, Belarus. First T-34 encounter. German panzer commander Heinrich Eberbach's column is advancing through a forest road. His scouts report no enemy contact. Suddenly, a Soviet tank emerges from the trees, moving fast, low silhouette. Eberbach doesn't recognize the design. His leading Panzer III engages. The gunner fires. A 50mm shell streaks across the field, hits the Soviet tank, bounces off. The Soviet tank doesn't stop. Eberbach orders his entire platoon to fire. 5 Panzer IIIs shoot simultaneously. 5 shells hit the Soviet tank. All 5 bounce off, ricochet into the air. The Soviet tank pivots, fires once. Eberbach's lead Panzer III explodes. The turret is blown 30 meters into the air. The hull burns. Eberbach radios division headquarters. "We've encountered a Soviet tank we cannot penetrate. Request instructions." The response is disbelief. "Impossible. Soviet tanks are inferior. You must be exaggerating." But reports flood in from every sector, every front. German anti-tank guns are useless against this new Soviet tank. Panzer crews are terrified. June 24, 1941, Rosani, Lithuania. The battle that becomes legend. A Soviet tank unit equipped with KV-1 heavy tanks and T-34 medium tanks blocks a key road junction. The Germans need this junction to advance toward Leningrad. They throw everything at the Soviet position. One KV-1 heavy tank, commanded by Zinovy Kolobanov, destroys 22 German tanks in 30 minutes. His KV-1 is hit 135 times. None of the shells penetrate. 5 T-34 tanks support the KV-1. They destroy German supply trucks, half-tracks, and infantry. The battle lasts 2 days. The Germans finally bring up 88mm anti-aircraft guns. These powerful weapons can penetrate Soviet armor, but the damage is done. The German advance is delayed for 48 hours. More importantly, German morale is shattered. Panzer crews no longer feel invincible. German Field Marshal Wilhelm von Leeb writes in his war diary, "Our tank guns are completely ineffective against the new Soviet T-34 and KV tanks. This is a catastrophe. We have no effective counter." Why the T-34 dominated. Let's analyze why the T-34 was so devastating in 1941. Armor superiority. The T-34's front hull armor is 45 millimeters thick at 60 degrees. Effective thickness, 90 millimeters. German Panzer III armor, 30 millimeters vertical. Panzer IV armor, 50 millimeters vertical. German anti-tank weapons in 1941, 37 millimeter PaK-36 anti-tank gun. Cannot penetrate T-34 at any range from the front. 50 millimeter PaK-38 gun. Can only penetrate T-34 from the side at close range, under 300 meters. Panzer III's 50 millimeter gun cannot penetrate T-34 frontally. Panzer IV's short 75 millimeter gun cannot penetrate T-34 frontally. Only the German 88 millimeter flak gun can reliably penetrate a T-34. But this is an anti-aircraft gun. It's large, heavy, difficult to deploy quickly. The Germans have few of them on the Eastern Front in 1941. Gun superiority. The T-34's 76.2 millimeter gun can penetrate 60 millimeters of armor at 500 meters, 70 millimeters at 300 meters, 80 millimeters at 100 meters. This means the T-34 can destroy any German tank in 1941 at combat range. Panzer III armor, 30 millimeters, easy kill. Panzer IV armor, 50 millimeters, easy kill. The T-34 can engage and destroy German tanks at 1,500 meters. German tanks must close to within 300 meters to have any chance of penetrating a T-34. This is a massive tactical advantage. Mobility superiority. T-34 specifications. Top speed on road, 55 kilometers per hour. Cross-country speed, 35 kilometers per hour. Operational range, 400 kilometers. German Panzer III. Top speed on road, 40 kilometers per hour. Cross-country speed, 20 kilometers per hour. Operational range, 150 kilometers. German Panzer IV. Top speed on road, 38 kilometers per hour. Cross-country speed, 18 kilometers per hour. Operational range, 200 kilometers. The T-34 is faster everywhere. On roads, cross-country, it can outmaneuver German tanks. It can choose when to fight and when to retreat. German tanks cannot catch it. More importantly, the T-34's wide tracks give it superior off-road performance. Rasputitsa, the Russian word for the mud season. Twice a year, spring and autumn, Russian roads become impassable rivers of mud. German tanks with narrow tracks bog down, cannot move. The T-34 crosses this terrain easily. German tank commander Otto Carius later wrote in his memoirs, "The T-34 was the best tank of 1941 and 1942. Its sloped armor, powerful gun, and incredible mobility made it far superior to anything we had. We were genuinely terrified of it." Soviet failures and German adaptation. But the T-34 wasn't invincible. Despite its technical superiority, the Soviet Union lost millions of men and thousands of tanks in 1941. Why? Soviet mistake number 1: inadequate crew training. Most T-34 crews in 1941 had less than 10 hours of training. Many drivers didn't know how to use the gearbox properly. Gunners couldn't aim accurately. Commanders didn't understand basic tactics. The T-34's clutch and transmission were difficult to operate. They required skill and practice. Inexperienced drivers frequently burned out the clutch or broke the gearbox. Tanks broke down not from combat damage, but from operator error. Soviet mistake number 2, lack of radios. In 1941, only platoon commanders had radios. Individual tanks communicated using flags. Flags, in the middle of a battle. This made coordination impossible. German tanks all had radios. They could coordinate attacks, concentrate fire, maneuver tactically. Soviet tanks often attacked in straight lines, easy targets for German anti-tank guns. Soviet mistake number 3, poor tactical doctrine. Soviet doctrine in 1941 was rigid, inflexible. Tanks attacked in waves, straight ahead, no flanking, no combined arms with infantry or artillery. German anti-tank gun crews simply waited for Soviet tanks to drive into killing zones, then destroyed them systematically. Soviet mistake number 4, logistical chaos. Stalin's purges killed thousands of logistics officers. Supply chains collapsed. Many T-34 units ran out of fuel or ammunition in the first week of war. Perfectly functional tanks were abandoned because there was no diesel fuel to run them. German adaptation. Despite these Soviet failures, Germany recognized the T-34 as a severe threat. By late 1941, Germany began developing new tanks specifically to counter the T-34. The Panther tank, inspired directly by the T-34, sloped armor, powerful 75mm gun, diesel engine. German engineers copied the T-34's design principles. The Tiger tank, designed to outgun the T-34, 88mm gun, 100mm of frontal armor. Slow, expensive, unreliable, but deadly. The arms race had begun. The T-34-85, the German counter. 1943. The tide of war is turning. Germany has deployed the Panther and Tiger tanks. These machines have powerful guns, 75mm and 88mm. They can penetrate the T-34's armor at long range. The Battle of Kursk, July 1943. Germany's last major offensive on the Eastern Front. German Panthers and Tigers face Soviet T-34s in the largest tank battle in history. The results are sobering. The T-34's 76mm gun struggles to penetrate Panther frontal armor. The Panther's sloped 80mm front armor is too thick. Soviet tankers must flank Panthers, get side shots. This is dangerous, costly. Soviet High Command recognizes the problem. The T-34 needs a more powerful gun. Engineer Alexander Morozov, Koshkin's protege, leads the upgrade project. The solution? The T-34-85. The designation refers to the new gun, 85mm. T-34-85 specifications. Gun, 85mm ZISS-53. Can penetrate 100mm of armor at 1,000 meters. Can penetrate 120mm at 500 meters. Can destroy Panther side armor at long range. Can destroy Tiger rear armor at medium range. Turret. Completely redesigned, larger, wider, 3-man crew, commander, gunner, loader. The commander can now focus on tactics instead of loading shells. Armor. Turret front increased to 90mm. Hull armor remains 45mm at 60 degrees. Optics. Improved sights, better range finding. Radio. All T-34-85s equipped with radios. Communication problems solved. Weight. 32 tons. Slightly heavier than the original T-34. Speed. 55 kilometers per hour on road. Still fast. The T-34-85 enters production in early 1944. By the end of the war, over 22,000 are built. The T-34-85 restores Soviet tank superiority. It can fight Panthers on equal terms. It can destroy Tigers from the flank or rear. It's faster and more reliable than both German tanks. German tank ace Otto Carius wrote, "The T-34-85 was a nightmare. Fast, well-armored, and now with a gun that could kill us." The numbers that won the war. Let's talk about production, because this is where the T-34 truly won the war. Total production numbers 1940 to 1945. T-34 all variants, 84,070 tanks. Germany, all tank types combined, 49,777 tanks. The Soviet Union built more T-34s than Germany built tanks total. More T-34s than all German Panthers, Tigers, Panzer IIIs, Panzer IVs, and assault guns combined. Specific German production for comparison. Panther tanks, 6,000. Tiger I tanks, 1,347. Tiger II tanks, 492. Total Tigers, 1,839. For every Tiger Germany built, the Soviet Union built 46 T-34s. Why was Soviet production so high? Reason 1. Simple design. The T-34 had fewer parts than German tanks. Fewer parts meant faster assembly, fewer things to break. Reason 2. Standardization. All T-34 variants used the same engine, the same transmission, the same suspension. Factories didn't need different parts for different tank models. Reason 3. Mass production techniques. Soviet factories ran 24 hours a day, 3 shifts. Workers slept in factory dormits. Production never stopped. Reason 4. Welding instead of riveting. German tanks used thousands of rivets, slow to install. The T-34 used welded armor, faster, stronger. Reason 5. Unskilled labor. Soviet factories trained women, teenagers, and elderly workers to assemble tanks. You didn't need to be a master craftsman. The design was simple enough for anyone to build. Production time comparison. T-34, 3,000 man-hours to build. Panther, 55,000 man-hours. Tiger, 300,000 man-hours. Soviet factory worker Valentina Smirnova later recalled in an interview, "We built 10 T-34s in the time it took Germany to build 1 Panther. We knew we were winning the war in the factory, not just on the battlefield." By May 1945, T-34s roll into Berlin, over the Reichstag, through the Brandenburg Gate. The war is over. Nazi Germany is destroyed. The T-34 has become the symbol of Soviet victory. But the T-34's story doesn't end in Berlin. Post-war service. The T-34 serves in Korean War, 1950 to 1953. Arab-Israeli Wars, 1956 to 1973. Vietnam War, 1960s to 1970s. Angola, 1975 to 2002. Yugoslavian Wars, 1990s. Syrian Civil War, 2011 to present. Over 80 years of continuous combat service. No other tank in history has fought in so many wars for so long. Legacy and influence. Every modern tank owes something to the T-34. Sloped armor, diesel engines, wide tracks, high mobility. These design principles are universal now, but in 1940 they were revolutionary. The American M1 Abrams uses sloped armor. The German Leopard 2 uses wide tracks. The Israeli Merkava uses diesel engines. All lessons learned from the T-34. German General Heinz Guderian wrote after the war, "The T-34 was the finest tank of World War II. We learned everything from it." Our Panther was essentially a German copy of Soviet design principles. Today, over 100 T-34 tanks survive in museums worldwide. Russia, Ukraine, Poland, Czech Republic, United States, United Kingdom. They stand as monuments to the greatest tank ever built, the tank that changed warfare forever. 84,070 tanks produced, millions of kilometers driven, hundreds of thousands of enemy vehicles destroyed. The machine that saved the Soviet Union, the weapon that defeated Nazi Germany, the tank that won World War II. Thank you for watching Iron Witness. Subscribe for more untold stories of the machines that shaped history.